And good morning, everybody out there on this April 17th, a couple days before my birthday. I'm sure everyone kind of knows that out there. And it's 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm very excited about this conversation. Okay, gotta make sure we're live. Very excited about this conversation we're having today. The fact that we actually get the roundtable topic leader for Crue Club Around the Table on camera to do this live webinar, I'm excited about. I'm geeking out about. But yeah, before we begin, let's kind of see who else is out there. We're going to get this kicked off because I think Alex is kind of waiting in the bullpen, ready to come out and start kind of talking about his conversation about. Actually, let me just kind of bring the slides back. How he led a conversation about kind of operational efficiencies and actually how to showcase how to have more operational efficiencies with collaboration and transparency between operators and service company. This is the topic I think that is extremely important as we progress in this industry. How do we have more collaborative, goal-oriented conversations? And I think that's really going to separate not only just the operators, but also people on the service side too, if you can dial into these collaborative conversations. And if you are tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from. Say hello. We'll chime you up there. And again, we'll take some Q&A after this. But let's begin. Let's dive into this right now. I'm going to go through a couple of introductions of what Crue Club is and the benefits of Crue Club. And not only that, but how you can get involved and join these conversations at the table. I believe that personally that the networking and how people connect in this industry is a little bit broken. And Crue Club is here really to facilitate an environment to really fix that. Let's bring people in. Let's not have any transactional conversations. Let's not have any pitches or solicitations. Let's connect on a genuine level. And that's exactly what we're doing over at Crue Club. So to begin, let me just kind of go briefly through this. I'm excited. I want to get Alex up to the plate. So dang it, Alex, you're supposed to be hiding. All right, sorry. Okay, hey, listen. Okay. So real quick, what is Crue Club? People often ask what Crue Club is. At the end of the day, Crue Club is an environment that we bring in operators, we bring in service companies, and majority of our operators, we have about, I would say 70% of the table are operators, and we sit down and we talk about things that are moving this industry forward or things that are holding it back. Whether it's technology, whether it's policy, whether it's operational efficiencies, and we're going to be diving into what we're talking about today. So that's kind of what Crue Club is. Here's the breakdown. Once we started doing these, we've been around for about 3.5 years. Once we started doing these operator roundtable discussions in January 2024, we brought in over 354 E&P operators. And just this year alone, we brought over 92. As you can see here, the disciplines, and this is why this makes these conversations so rich. The discipline around the table is everything from completions, productions, drilling, reservoir, geology. And as you can see here, 55% are managers or above. That's and I think it's 29% VPs or above. So how do you get involved as an operator out there? How do you get involved to build your network strategically with other operators out there? Well, head over to crewclub.com, register, and start receiving information about the events. And if you're an oilfield service company out there looking to actually change the way how you connect with operators and actually be a part of the conversations versus kind of guessing your way through this environment, reach out to me or head over to crewclub.com to find out more. Space is limited, so you want to be sure to lock it down as it comes while they're available. And just FYI, upcoming tables to join. We only have one a spot left. Fort Worth with Ryan Walker. We're going to be talking about energy policy. And then we're headed over to Midland. And then we're going to go to Fort Worth for Super Doug. And then we're coming to Houston with Dan Ramada with Pickering Energy Partners. Then Denver with Bill Knox, the VP of Operations at Anschutz. Then we're doing Urtech one in Houston. And we have Kate Heigen. So here's the deal. The schedule always changes. It always gets updated. And we have these events through a different location. So you want to be part of crewclub.com to find out what's happening. And I think without further ado, so as you can see, this is what we've done just this year alone. Over 90 E&P operators from over, I think, 52 E&P companies. So as you can see, all these conversations are very different, but there are common themes that emerge from these conversations. And one of these is collaboration. One of these is communication between service companies and operators and why there's such a gap right now. And not only that, where's the benefit in bridging that gap? So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my buddy. Boom. Yep, you're on right now. Alex MacDonald, who Alex and I actually met. Alex, first off, I think a little background about you. What I dig about you and how we met was really through Crue Club. I think you reached out and you said, hey man, I kind of see these tables, I kind of dig it. So you started attending them, you made some connections from them, and then I was excited to ask you to actually lead one. And so without further delay, why don't you kind of say hello real quick and give a little background about yourself, and kind of we'll go into that. And then also everyone out tuning in out there, we have some very exciting news out there. And operators, if you are listening, service companies, if you are listening, Alex he just started a new chapter in his life, and we're going to be talking about that here on how he's impacting the industry, and it's exciting stuff. I'm excited not just because I've known Alex for quite some time, but just the innovation behind his next chapter in his life. So stay tuned. We're going to be announcing that towards the end of this. So Alex, kick it off, brother. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me, JP, and thanks again for letting me lead that discussion on April 3rd. We had a great time chatting that evening. But a bit about myself. My name's Alex MacDonald. I've been in the drilling industry for 10 years now. Started up in northern Canada as a drilling supervisor, moving into drilling engineering, then moved down to West Texas. Been in Houston for about 7 years now.
Are you first generation oil and gas, or is it what brought you into this industry? I'm always curious about kind of everyone's path in this industry because it's all so different.
That's right. First generation. My family back in Nova Scotia is originally lobster fishermen. So from 7 generations of lobster fishermen back on the East Coast. So that's kind of what got me into the industry. Is I wanted to kind of lead a life on the water, and I wanted to kind of understand how engineering played a role in that. And so I actually started out working offshore as a roughneck offshore Nova Scotia back in 2015, and that's kind of what led me into the oil and gas industry. And then I loved it so much that they moved me out to Calgary, and then down to Texas, and been here ever since. So absolutely.
Do you ever miss the offshore days?
Absolutely. I love being on the water. As much as drilling on land is fun, you don't really get that same sunset or sunrise like it is being on the water. So no, I absolutely love it out there. But happy to be back on shore. Just drilled a couple wells offshore, deep water Gulf of Mexico the last couple of years, and while I really enjoyed that, it was time to get back to land.
So your experience has been primarily on the drilling side. You've done offshore, you've done engineering side of stuff. I mean, everyone can kind of check out his LinkedIn. He's served several places. One being Shell, one being Exxon, till your new chapter in your life, we're going to be discussing now. And this is going to be very important for everyone out there to get in touch with Alex, because I think you probably will want to get in touch with Alex. So here you are in the industry. So it's been about 10 years, right, since you've been in the industry. And you decided, let's talk about this topic that you have right here. What brought you to have this topic, and why do you feel the importance of it? And then kind of let's dive into the roundtable discussion on what we gathered from this. And if you are missing this right now, this will be released as an Energy Crue podcast that you can download. Check out wherever you get it from, all that fun stuff, YouTube, whatever. And so this way you kind of follow up with Alex and stay on top of what's actually happening. I'm not going to ruin the surprise, but anyway, touch base with them, and this is going to be understanding. So why did you pick this topic, and what do you see the importance of this topic at? Let me bring it up.
Yeah, so
driving operational efficiencies. Okay, go.
Yeah, driving operational efficiency, strengthening collaboration, and building transparency between operators and service providers. So quite a mouthful there, but ultimately what it chalks up to is really communication. There's a lot of really smart people in this industry solving very complex problems, but some of the most fundamental challenges that we have day to day in our operations is just not connecting with each other, not collaborating, not communicating the risks that may be going on in each one of our operations. So,
let me ask you about that real quick. Do you think that that feeling about, hey guys, we could get better if we started collaborating more, if we communicated more, are those the conversations actually happening on the operator level, or is it, hey, we just got to find better vendors or better services?
No, I find it was a common trend, especially early on in my career, was if a service provider did not perform, they would just get moved out and a new one get moved in, rather than talking about our problems. I think the industry's kind of shifted over the last couple of years where we really narrow in on let's work together as a partnership, kind of moving from service provider to a strategic partnership where you're actually talking about issues that are going on in the industry and working to solve them together rather than just shuffling service providers time and time again. Because I find we would work together quite effectively, and then there'd be a problem, and they would shuffle out and bring in a new service provider, and you'd be faced with the same problems all over again. So that partnership is super important, and I've really seen it pay dividends in my career thus far.
So I think one of the most interesting things out of this, obviously we're going to get into this conversation, but I love how you kicked off this, and I want you to actually plug in why you kicked it off. But I think it's very interesting because from these Crew Club roundtables, I mean, this even happened, I think, when Colby Klein, you were there at Rainbow Lodge, where it was Q4 of last year, and I think the operators sitting around the table saying, hey, we no longer base our decision off of low cost. That's kind of bitten us in the ass a little bit, and we're now basing our decision off of X, Y, and Z. If you want to know what X, Y, and Z, go to Crew Club, join Crew Club tables to find X, Y, Z. But operators are now choosing it because, things have been, I guess, it needs to be a relationship. It needs to be a conversation because service providers need to understand, and this is what we talked around the table, the why of the operators. Why? So whether the service companies are getting replaced, you still need to understand your customer's why. What is the main goal of the customer? So, all right, sorry about that. Go on. That was a random tangent. Okay. So now you guys are talking about, I guess the operators are talking about, we need more collaboration.
That's exactly right. And it's one thing to say that, like we say that we're kind of chasing operational efficiency, but what does that really mean? Really what operational efficiency is in my mind is really the quantification of how effectively are we collaborating, and are we actually being transparent with what's going on, both in the field and in the office? So it's really trying to build up that level of collaboration. So you're willing to have the hard conversations about what's going wrong. You're willing to look at the data to say, what can we do to improve going forward? And then building up that genuine trust between your entire organization, and being willing to have that open communication pathway. So
hey, let's get this kicked off around the table, because I'm jotting down some notes right now. I think that a lot of people out there that will want to understand, like, okay, well, collaboration, transparency. How do we start doing that? How do we start doing this? So I would love to kind of take this on the stratosphere we're having now and bring it down to people out there so it actually impact them and help them actually make better decisions and have better conversations with their customers and the service providers. So this is just kind of notes that I took, Alex. And if you want, we can dive into these, or we can go around kind of your perspective of the table, because my perspective obviously is very different than yours, and I'd love to hear yours. These are just kind of key takeaways that I took. Okay. And I guess why don't you kick this off? You had such a wonderful, you'd walk us through this, man. You had such a wonderful way, and it was kind of a jaw-dropping realization that you shared around the table about percentages of operators that choose their vendor based on low cost. So why don't you just kind of kick it off on the table and kind of walk us through, use these key takeaways, don't use these key takeaways. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So the stat that I shared that night was 2023 industry survey found that 40% of E&P operators chose service providers primarily based on lowest bid. Obviously, that changes as we go through the roller coaster of the cycles of oil and gas, but 40% of operators still chose lowest bid, and 73% of those same respondents acknowledged seeing cost overruns or quality issues as a result of that. So really one of the challenges is how do you quantify, when you're looking at two bids side by side, which one is going to get you the desired results? Obviously, lowest bid is very easy to quantify in terms of cost, but there's a lot of other knock-on effects to that. There's reliability issues, there's field service quality, there's material issues that may crop up through the supply chain. And it's really tough for the operator's perspective to actually understand that and quickly make the right decision, especially when you're dealing with like 10 different categories when it comes to cementing, casing design, drill string design. There's so many different facets of the industry, and making the right decision every single time is exceptionally challenging.
So number one, I think this is such a great conversation we're having right now, because number one, I think that service providers, number one, need to understand it's not just service, low cost, or anything like that. I equate it to this. Think about if you're using an Android, right? You love Androids, you love Androids, you love Androids. and you have 15 other cell phone companies out there. You're going in there pitching low price, best service, and all that stuff. That really doesn't resonate with the operator, right? That doesn't resonate with the customer. So you really need to understand why Alex is using the Android. What problems do you have with it that you don't wish you have? And it really is one of those things that if you're getting a flood of 15 companies, of 15 vendors saying, "Hey, get us, buy us, buy us, buy us," that is a very challenging thing. What I would assume for an operator to differentiate what's smoke, what's mirrors, what's factual, what's a good reputation. So how do, I guess, traditionally do operators go about, this is exciting, without giving too much cat out of the bag, how do traditionally operators go about when it's not the price, when it's the reputation, when it's, we have a comment here. So how do operators go about currently or previously to gather that information, not the low cost number or anything like that, to understand the reputation of the people? How does that happen?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the category you're talking about, but effectively what you have to do is decide what's important to you. And if it's quality in one aspect, or is it cost, could be a one major component. Is it just speed and efficiency? Is that what you're chasing? One thing that came up that evening was how different operators are chasing different value drivers as well.
Yes.
I find all too often that service providers come into an operator shop to talk about selling a service of some sort, but they don't really understand what's the problem that I'm having. Like, you're trying to sell me something on something that I don't really understand what that problem is. So really just trying to understand, like, what are your value drivers from either your personal value drivers or the corporate value drivers that's going to help us solve a problem.
It was fascinating, man. Like it was like so at our events, obviously you have different size or different, structured operators. You have private equity backed, you have independent, small, major, super majors. That kind of took me by surprise, Alex, was having every single person at the table say, hey, this might work for your company, but we actually base our decision off of this. And they were small, minute, but you talking about driving the change or driving the decision, those little things. And at the end of the day, it was all understanding your customers' why. Why are they doing, what is their approach and what is the main goal? And you're not going to get that without these conversations.
That's precisely right. That's why I love Crew Club so much. And that's why I keep coming back, is there's so many different perspectives from the service provider side, from the operator. Small, medium, large operators kind of had different mindsets. So it's nice to throw a challenge in the room and have like those deep technical discussions about how are we driving this industry forward. And when everyone's able to contribute, you really end up with a fantastic product at the end of the night. So
we have a question from LinkedIn user. I wish this transferred to who's actually asking this question. I apologize. It just says LinkedIn user, but it says how to systematically drive transparency and open communication as the basis for effective collaboration. What metrics are there to measure success? Man, that's kind of what we talked around about the table too. I think one person around the table who's an operator said, we as an operator, we provide the KPIs or the metrics to our vendors. And actually some of them put them in competition. They kind of rank them, right? So my question is, does that drive transparency? Does that drive collaboration? I think when operators start doing that, I think you confirm or call me full of shit, whatever. But I think what they say at first, it's like, at first, there's not a lot of trust in that, right? There's a lot of like, you're scrutinizing me under a microscope. You're looking at my team's performance. That makes me hesitant to whatever. But I think once the why is communicated and understood from the operators, from the service companies, that becomes a lot more accepted, right? That's where those trust bites start to happen throughout the operator to the service companies. So I guess looking at this question, I mean, what are you seeing here? Good question.
Ultimately, to really have transparency and open communication, you can't just throw the data out there and hope for the best. You really need to have culture within your company that's willing to talk about both when we're succeeding and when we're failing. You need to clearly define like what those feedback loops are going to look like. You need to have management bought in. You need to have office management bought in, the field management bought in, so that we're willing to talk about, yes, we struggled through that last casing run, that last 7-inch job. Let's talk about like what we can do to improve next time, rather than playing the blame game. Just putting the data out there by itself is not enough. You really need everyone bought in with this culture change to really push the boundary forward.
So do you see this the need for collaboration conversation, or the need for collaborating between operating service companies I guess, the importance starting at different levels. Like from the field, this is more important than, I guess, in the engineer this will probably be important to them in 2 months. Senior management, they're probably going to understand why this is important in 6 months. So it's going to be it's not like a one thing fits all. Everyone has the same mindset suddenly. I think it's a gradual shift.
It is gradual, absolutely. I can tell you in my career, we've rolled out this performance transparency journey where we talked about putting the data in front of the entire field staff, so they could visualize exactly how they're doing on that last full section they just drilled, their last drilling run versus what the target should be. And like, frankly, it did not go well in the first couple months. Like, it took a long time to build up that trust and really understand, like, why are we talking about this? We never used to do it this way before. And then effectively slowly getting everyone on board, bringing management on board, bringing the field on board. And then once you're on that cultural change together, you can drive the business forward very rapidly.
Okay. All right. And so, so a couple of key things that I have here, and obviously we can open it up to you as well, and also anyone out there that wants to dive in and ask a question right now. This also, I thought this was interesting too, because this isn't just from your topic around the table, but right now the conversations about technology, right? Innovation. Where is that coming from? With reduced capital, with workforce reduction, with service companies' margins kind of getting hit. Jeff Krimble just mentioned. I saw his short reel yesterday about service companies getting hard. So historically, it was my understanding that technology innovation came from the service side. However, right now, because of the lack of capital, because of all this stuff, these collaborative conversations need to happen at square one. Is that a safe statement to make, that they need to really happen? This is not one of those things where if I'm a service company, I can think, oh, well, Alex is going through this. I think he might want this. This is one of those things that if you are investing money in R&D or in technology, you got to have these conversations before you actually even put a pen to the paper.
Absolutely. You need to partner with your operator to understand what is their pain point before you invest your R&D capital into something that's not going to generate a return for either the service provider or the operator. What we're seeing, especially in a low oil price environment like we're at today, is where service providers will come in and undercut each other on the lowest bid. And when you do that, you're effectively driving down your profit margin for these service providers. Profit margin goes down. That means there's less and less investment into research and development to actually keep moving the industry forward. So really, like, how do you differentiate yourself and kind of warrant that higher profit margin, which will enable us to keep moving the ball forward? I think that's kind of the debate we've been having at several Crue Club events recently, is like, who's supposed to front the bill? Is it the operator? Is it the service provider? Whose responsibility is it for innovation anymore? That's something we still struggle with today.
But I think that's the most. I think it's a beautiful part of these conversations. Is like, whether it's AI, whether it's collaboration, whether it's these partnerships, we don't know. But we're figuring it out together. Like, we don't have the answer, but we have an idea of the direction we need to take together.
That's precisely right.
So what other key takeaways do you have? Because I kind of want to go over to the action items that everyone that's listening in right now and in the future can take away. And then I want to get into your exciting new chapter in your development and how you are improving these collaborative conversations between the operator and the service provider, which I'm excited to dive into. So any other kind of key things that kind of brought you back, kind of took that kind of made you kind of like perk up at the table whenever we're kind of having these roundtable conversations from your event?
I think one thing that wasn't really apparent to me was one of the service providers spoke up during the session and talked about how they frequently, like, they find out that there's a problem when they lose a contract. Generally, they're approached by the operator saying, yeah, we're going to go in another direction, and they don't really have that understanding of like what went wrong. They weren't brought in to have a discussion about challenges that they're having in the field until it's too late. So even if you think that your contracts are going well, still establish that communication. Don't assume that just because you're not actually hearing any feedback that everything's going smoothly, because I can guarantee you that there probably are some challenges. And having that open communication, even when things are going well, is super important, not only to get contracts, but also maintain those contracts and continue to grow and become that strategic partner with an operator.
It's like any relationship. I mean, your marriage, you could think things are going great, for so long. Next thing you know, it's like, well, this is like, oh, when did this all happen? So having these communications, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, it's so crucial to constantly, I guess, stay in touch and have these conversations. So I remember that was very shocking to me, because I can remember in my career, I've had a couple situations where, man, I thought everything was going great, and this is kind of out of the blue, but it wasn't. It was a building momentum thing. So some action items that this is what I think that people out there that are viewing can take away is kind of what you just talked about. Communicate early and communicate often. Obviously, you don't want to keep on pinging them all stuff, but if you're having strategic, collaborative, intentionful conversations, continue them. Another action item I have is think like a partner, not a vendor. Stop going in there and pitching, convincing. They might not even have a problem. They might love their Android. They might get annoyed that you're coming to their office trying to sell them another phone because they don't have a problem. So understand you're a solution provider, not a vendor pitching low cost, right? And then the other thing I have is validate before you innovate. Understand that we just talked about this. Understand what the customer wants. What's their why? What are they going for before you start trying to put a square into a circle hole, right? And then build internal alignment first. So those are my action items, takeaways. And then what do you have for anyone? If not, we'll keep going.
I think you summed it up well.
All right. Okay. And obviously, there's just testimonies. Listen, everyone, if you want to get part of these tables, and great testimonies from some great people out here. Alex, we got to get a testimony here too. But hey, at the end of the day, networking is broken. This gives you conversations, a seat at the table. Part of the conversation at these conferences, you're always being spoken to. But hey, listen, let's get into some more, some interesting stuff right now, Alex. So, Alex, why don't you give us kind of an update in what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what goal you're going for with your new chapter?
Yeah, thanks, GP. So I guess been in the industry for about 10 years now. Started as a roughneck, worked in the field for a couple of years, and then been in the office for the last 6 or so years, and really started to see that collaboration and transparency really is a struggle from all aspects of the industry. So I've always been very passionate on how do we collaborate more effectively, how do we talk about how we move the industry forward. So I sought out to build, instead of, I guess, complaining about some of these challenges, I wanted to be more solution oriented. And one critical theme that kind of came out of their discussion was that operators and service providers both need like a centralized collaborative place to build that trust, to find who is the best service provider fit for that job. So that's exactly why I built ReConcierge, which is an operator-led platform that empowers a more transparent oil field. ReConcierge streamlines vendor selection process by showcasing real-world success stories, understanding the full product offerings that service providers have to show, and surface potential red flags before they become a costly problem. In a climate today where attention is scarce and every dollar counts, ReConcierge ensures that service providers who prioritize collaboration and quality stand out, while operators gain clarity on true value instead of settling for that lowest bid. So,
all right. So, hey, listen, man. So, at the end of the day, what you successfully have done, and obviously everyone out there, please let me actually put this in the chat. Check out ReConcierge. I like saying that because it makes it sound fancy. Here is the chat. Boom. Let me put it here. And then show. Check it out. Okay, so pretty much, Alex, the whole goal of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is yes, efficiencies, collaboration, but at the end of the day, this is a great platform to get real reviews from. And I love this idea because it really is like a Yelp, a Google review for service providers, for vendors. Because I personally believe, Alex, that we're in a hyper-connected yet disconnected world. I mean, that's kind of why I do all my seminars on communication, on network, and how to build it. So at the end of the day, where do companies get their information? Where can they actually understand real, whether they're going to a new location or a basin or something like that, where can they actually understand the service providers and all that stuff? So what you successfully did, was you stepped out on your own. Now you started Rig Concierge to be a pretty much an operator reviewed, a service provider, I guess, whatever, phone book, whatever, reviewed by operators.
That is correct. I find all too often you're having challenges at the office, and you're trying to figure out what's my next motor provider that I should be testing out, what's the next drill bit that we should try in this basin, and it's really tough to find information. Like, you can kind of navigate some service providers' web pages, and some of them are laid out well, some of them are not. So really just trying to level the playing field, have a standard methodology for how do you find tools, how do you find the best, highest rated service providers in your region. And then this will help promote service providers that are really crushing it out there and providing a high quality of service. So really want to let them stand out, and operators are able to successfully work with the best service providers in the industry. So,
well, hats off to you. I just saw that there's over 110 service providers already that have signed up for the Rig Concierge site. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, good for you. Good for you. I'm excited to kind of see this grow and obviously provide some. And that's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we always say this industry, you have your reputation, you have your name, and this really is a way to kind of validate that. To kind of, I think it's a great way to provide more trust, because at the end of the day, in this day and age, if you're going to a restaurant, you're checking reviews. If it's not hitting a certain amount of stars, you're not going there. And the same ways, and what's weird to me, Alex, is we don't, as service providers or as people, whenever we get in our professional role, we don't utilize, or we don't think about our own purchasing behaviors in our personal life. Checking reviews. Now you have that, right? Understand the problem. Don't want to be pitched to, but yet we go out and pitch. This is a great way to have that trust built, and honestly, have some honest feedback from operators who have utilized service companies before.
That's completely right. If you have ever had issues with your home, you always look up on Google Maps to see which is the top rated HVAC company or plumbing company in the business, and they kind of live and breathe by their reviews, and they want to provide that high quality service to continue to get the pipeline of new customers coming in the door. Why does that not exist in oil and gas?
So my question is this: number one, who is this for? Obviously, you've already answered that, but I have to ask these questions to make it stick. Number one, who is this for?
This is for both the key target audience is drilling supervisors and drilling engineers searching for new tools to implement in their well design. Operators see benefit as it's a free private review platform that they're able to voice their concerns or kind of promote good service providers. And they're able to effectively create that feedback loop between operators and service providers. Service providers are also able to come in and add all their product offerings into the service so that you can implement all the product specification sheets, any promotional videos. So you're really connecting the dots between the product designers that are actually creating this new technology directly to the people that are purchasing it, which is typically a drilling supervisor on a well site somewhere or a drilling engineer sitting in an office. So it's a two-sided marketplace.
So again, this is something that, again, if you're an engineer out there working an operator that you've utilized some vendors that you're either happy with or honestly might have not been a good experience with, this is a safe place for them to kind of review it, right? And I like this. So let me ask you a question. Are there going to be any trolls on this? And how are there going to be no trolls like on X or something like that when it comes to reviewing service?
Yeah, we have a pretty thorough validation process to ensure that it's only operators that are signing up that are actually able to promote to review on this platform. You're only able to utilize your corporate email address. There's a validation protocol that ensures that that's kind of maintained throughout your time on Rig Concierge. And you're basically posting your name and your company right side by side with that review. So it is real operators that are vetted to actually get on the platform, and real service providers that are able to promote their offerings.
Man, what a cool idea, man. I love this. I mean, Obviously, I dig the colors. I think I use one of these colors for Crue Club. Man, I love the logo. I love the goal of this. And I guess at the end of the day, what is the main goal of Rig Concierge? I mean, you've already spoken to it, but I'd like you to again, I guess, solidify it.
Really, just simplifying the way we do business in the oil and gas industry. It's so complicated to find which vendors are good in which basins, which technologies are available, and really cut through all the noise of kind of artificial sales pitches and kind of get to the root of like how do we drill more cost-effective wells, faster wells, more productive wells, and do that with a lot more simplicity.
So I have a question. So let's say I'm hanging out in Midland and you're in Houston or Oklahoma City or something like that, and I see you review Crue Club mugs, right? Is there a way that I can say, man, Alex utilizes in Oklahoma City. I'm in Midland. I'm going to give him a call and see what his experience was. Is there a way to kind of further the connections, further the conversations through Rig Concierge?
That's correct. We have two different methodologies. We have a public review network, which is public within the operator space. So only operators are able to see the reviews across the board. So you're able to contribute in the public setting, which is the Rig Concierge Operator Network. Or there's the private review network, which you can kind of consolidate your team or just to your company if you want to keep your reviews to yourself. So you really have the option if you want to contribute to the public domain, which I really encourage. I think we should be collaborating across company to company more often. You have the opportunity to put your review out there in that public domain, and by all means, they can reach out to you and to kind of chat more about your experience with that service provider.
Dude, I love it, man. The fact that you just recently, I would say semi-recently, over the past couple of weeks, launched Rig Concierge, which is an operator-led service provider reviewing. Think about it, Yelp, or think about it, Google reviews for service providers. The fact you launched this and you have over 110 service providers on there yet, I'm seeing reviews as well. Man, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the impact that this potentially could have.
Yeah, I'm kind of dumbfounded with the amount of outreach from the service provider community and the operator community of people that are interested in learning more about it. I've had over 100 folks reach out to me just this past week, so I'm kind of filtering through them, trying to get to everyone. So if you haven't heard from me yet, I'll be following up with you shortly.
Love that. All right. So, Alex, let me ask you a question. How can people find you? How can people find Rig Concierge? And what is a final takeaway from your roundtable and a plug for Crue Club? So, number one, how can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm super active on there. So by all means, reach out to me, send me a message, and I'll be sure to get back to you very quickly. In terms of Crue Club, really advocated at the end of the night to really focus on, instead of accepting the status quo, focus on how we can move the industry forward. Whether that's an archaic process that we have internally or lack of willingness to collaborate across companies. Just think about like how do we move the industry forward as a whole, and to take personal action in the next couple of months, figuring out what can I do personally rather than wait for the industry to change.
Yeah, I love that. Man, I love that. It's all about setting your own intention. It's all about having these conversations. And I truly believe, obviously you believe too, that this industry is going to be moved forward. And listen, technology's out there, AI is out there. I get that. But for me, this industry is going to be moving forward through human intelligence, human conversation, because we had one in Oklahoma City where Brandon Connor was leading one about SIMOPS. And he's like, listen, at the end of the day, you need people's ideas. You need these conversations to think of an idea outside the box for SIMOPS, for Trimul-Frac, for this, for that, for whatever. So these conversations are crucial in driving the industry forward. And what you're doing, the platform you have, and actually the platform I have, I'm digging it, man. I think it's great to have these candid, transparent conversations around the table, because you're right. That's how you improve.
Absolutely. And I advocate for everyone to reach out and attend one of the Crue Club events. I did so a couple of years ago, and I think I've attended everyone in Houston thus far. Really enjoyed the discussions. I get a lot of value out of it. So highly recommend it.
I don't know. I'm blagging over it. You might have missed one due to the newborn of your child, but that's a very acceptable excuse.
That is a good point.
All right, y'all. Hey, Alex, I want to thank you, man. I'm excited to stay in touch with you and see the success. I can see I'm glitching over here, which is kind of cool, but I'm excited for you, man. I'm looking forward to obviously seeing the progress of Rig Concierge. Again, you can check that out here. It's on the screen. Check it out. It's going to be, whether you check it out now, you're going to be checking it out later. It's because I think this is going to be moving a lot of things in this industry. So, hey, I appreciate you taking the time this morning, Alex. I hope you have a great Easter weekend, safe Easter weekend. Everyone out there have a great, safe Easter weekend. If you missed some of this, you can find it out. I'm going to put this out on Energy Crew podcast. You can check that on YouTube and Spotify. And if you're interested in joining the table at Crue Club, head over to crueclub.com. That's CRUE Club.com. Be a part of the conversations. Be a part of the collaborative conversations. And hey, Alex, you have a great day, brother. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything else you want to leave? Am I cutting off soon? Anything I'm not asking or bringing up?
That's perfect. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, brother. You be good. Thank you all out there. And hope everyone has a great, safe, and remember, keep the conversations going. All right. Always ask, always figure out what the why is, and you're a problem solver. You're not there to pitch, you're not there to convince, not there to lowball. You're really there to understand their why. All right, y'all. Y'all be good out there. Remember, collaborate, healthy conversations, connect on a genuine level, and remember, be kind. All right, y'all. Y'all be good.